Long before surveillance, sensors, or satellites, there were warriors who didn't need technology to dominate a battlefield. They slipped through forests without breaking a twig, tracked enemies across miles without a single mistake, and vanished before anyone realized they were near. They were quite literally the invisible variable in every fight. So what skills turned Native American scouts into the most feared and indispensable operatives of their time? Let's find out. For the Apache, Navajo, Comanche, Lakota, and Cheyenne, scouting wasn't a military role. It was their everyday life. Children grew up in open terrain, taught to notice subtle sounds, shifting winds, and small disturbances in the earth. By the time they were young teens, the foundations of scouting were already instinct. But how did these skills eventually evolve them into the almost superhuman ability to track things modern soldiers would never even see? Because for Native American scouts, tracking wasn't a technique, it was a worldview. They learned to read the land like language, interpreting bent grass as intent, broken twigs as direction, and silence as information. What others dismissed as random details became a full narrative only they could decode. This ability to pull meaning from what looked like nothing is what set them apart and made them indispensable. And to understand how deep that mastery truly ran, we need to step into the first and most defining pillar of their skill set: tracking. For Native American scouts, tracking wasn't a skill they learned later. It was something they absorbed from the land as children. Disturbed soil, a bent blade of grass, a misplaced stone, these were the tiny disruptions that formed the foundation of their early lessons. But what transformed these simple observations into a level of tracking modern soldiers can't replicate? Because for scouts, every ground sign was part of a complex system of reading the environment. A broken twig wasn't just a break. It told them the direction, force, height, even urgency. Crushed grass revealed weight distribution. Displaced pebbles showed speed. And then came the micro-tracking, including studying dust layers, moisture differences, and the angle of shadows across a print. From a single footprint, they could deduce pace, exhaustion level, emotional tension, group size, load carried, and how long ago the person passed, sometimes down to minutes. Scouts could follow trails for miles through forests or rocky terrain without losing them, even when those trails crossed rivers or vanished on hard surfaces. To outsiders, the land looked blank. To them, it was a living map, whispering every detail. And yet, tracking was only half their advantage. To observe enemies up close, they needed something just as extraordinary. The land itself was both the ally and shield for Native American scouts. Using mud, plant fibers, charcoal, clay, and natural dyes, they became part of the environment, almost invisible to anyone watching. A scout crouching among shrubs or lying against a rocky slope could vanish in plain sight. But blending into the background was only half the challenge. What happens when you need to communicate with your team without breaking the silence that keeps you alive? Camouflage was more than just visual trickery. It was an extension of their instincts and understanding of the world. Scouts adapted to every terrain: desert sand, dense forests, and mountain crags, modifying colors, textures, and patterns to match their surroundings. Every movement was calculated to be slow, deliberate, to avoid catching light or disturbing leaves. Even at close range, enemies could pass within feet without noticing them. This mastery allowed scouts not only to observe, but to control when and how they revealed themselves, giving them the freedom to strategize silently. The same discipline that made them invisible also demanded an equally precise system to communicate without sound. And that brings us to one of the most ingenious aspects of their craft: silent communication. Silent communication was the invisible thread that held scouting teams together. Scouts relied on hand signals, subtle gestures, and body positioning, allowing them to coordinate without ever uttering a word. Prearranged signs using rocks, feathers, sticks, or marks on the ground conveyed everything from direction and distance to warnings of danger. But to warn an entire group, sometimes silence wasn't enough. What hidden systems did they use to send messages across miles? The genius of these silent systems lay in their adaptability. Scouts developed close-range and long-range sign systems, each carefully tuned to the environment. A subtle flick of the hand could signal a trap nearby, while a pattern of sticks or stones might warn others several miles away. Every symbol was layered with meaning, passed down through generations, and deeply rooted in tribal culture. Yet even these clever methods had limits. Distances, line-of-sight obstacles, and the unpredictability of nature required another layer of ingenuity. To alert, mislead, or guide groups across vast terrain, scouts turned to environmental signaling and decoys, a sophisticated extension of their silent language. And so, their craft moved from whispers to the art of sending messages through the land itself. When silence alone wasn't enough, scouts turned the environment itself into a messaging system. Smoke signals, reflective surfaces, and carefully timed bird calls allowed information to travel across miles. Even subtle cues in nature, like a displaced stone or bent branch, could carry meaning to those who knew the code. But the true test of a scout wasn't just technique. It was the moments when their decisions changed history. Scouts also mastered deception, using false trails, decoys, and misleading tracks to misdirect enemies. A single broken twig in the wrong place could convince pursuers a group had gone in one direction while the scouts moved another. Mirrors of light, smoke, and shadow created illusions that seemed impossible to penetrate. These were not random tricks. They were calculated strategies born from intimate knowledge of terrain and human behavior. Such mastery meant that scouts didn't just observe, they shaped outcomes. Their decisions could prevent ambushes, protect entire tribes, and even shift the course of battles. And these same skills became invaluable in real historical military campaigns, where Native American scouts left their mark on history. Native American scouts were more than observers. They became vital guides in warfare. They led U.S. Army regiments through unforgiving terrain. Their knowledge of hidden paths, water sources, and enemy movements unmatched. Beyond the battlefield, scouts played key roles in intertribal conflicts and raids, using their skills to protect or challenge neighboring tribes. But how did these scouts train their minds to stay this hyper-aware, even under the stress of life and death situations? Take the Apache scouts under General Crook, whose ability to navigate deserts and anticipate enemy ambushes became legendary. Or the Navajo scouts during the Long Walk era, balancing survival and loyalty in impossible circumstances. Their work was not only technical, it carried profound ethical weight. Serving the U.S. Army placed them in complex moral landscapes, where allegiance, survival, and cultural identity intersected. All of this required mental discipline, an almost superhuman level of awareness. Scouts had to read the land, anticipate enemy moves, and remain calm under pressure, while carrying the weight of their community's survival. This mental conditioning wasn't just skill, it was a cultivated state of mind, deeply intertwined with cultural teachings and spiritual practice. And it was this mental mastery that allowed them to reach the pinnacle of scouting craft. For Native American scouts, the mind was as important as the body. Situational awareness was cultivated daily, an instinct to notice subtle shifts in wind, light, or sound. Emotional discipline allowed them to control fear, exercise patience, and make precise decisions in moments of extreme danger. But what finally happened when American warfare modernized? Did the scouts disappear or evolve? Their mental conditioning was inseparable from spiritual practice and philosophy. Scouts viewed the land as an extension of themselves, interpreting every sign as part of a living, breathing system. This deep connection allowed them to anticipate dangers, understand patterns, and act decisively without hesitation. Their patience, calm, and heightened perception weren't just skills, they were a way of being, a mindset passed from generation to generation. As the face of warfare changed, the scouts' roles shifted, but their influence didn't vanish. Their techniques, philosophies, and acute understanding of the environment evolved into modern tracking, survival training, and military reconnaissance, leaving a lasting imprint far beyond the battlefields of the past. And this brings us to the enduring legacy of the Native American Scout. The skills of Native American scouts didn't vanish with time. They became a foundation for modern expertise. Today, special forces, tracking schools, and survival training programs draw directly from their techniques. Scouts' methods of reading terrain, tracking movements, and remaining unseen are still taught in military manuals. But in the end, what is the true legacy of the Native American Scout? Modern Native American trackers continue to serve in border work, search and rescue, and environmental monitoring, carrying forward traditions centuries old. Their knowledge is not just practical, it embodies a philosophy of harmony with the land, patient observation, and ethical decision-making. What was once battlefield mastery has transformed into a guide for survival, conservation, and understanding nature's hidden language. The legacy of the Scout is both technical and spiritual, showing that the most profound skills are rooted in culture, observation, and a deep connection to the environment. Their legacy endures today, whether it's in military training, in search and rescue, in survival schools, but also in a quieter, deeper way, in the human capacity to listen to the land, observe without interference, and move with awareness and respect. The final lesson of the Scout is not simply how to follow footprints or mislead an enemy. It is how to see the world with clarity, to read its stories, and to understand our place within it. But what do you think? Let us know your thoughts on the Native American Scouts in the comments. Thanks for watching.